Oh, hey there. Looks like we're live. My name is Stevie Collier, and I just real quick had a question. This cloth right here, does that smell like chloroform to you? Just kidding.
What,
Or
Stevie? What was that?
it was very rapey. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be that way. It was from Hall Pass. It's from Hall Pass. It's a bad joke from Hall. Anyway, my name is Stevie Collier. Welcome to the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Sorry we're late, but we are here and we are ready to talk some good shiz tonight. I'm here with my co-host Andy Peliquin, and we are honored to have Ulff Ulff Fedris.
Ulff Lehmann.
Is that your real name?
No.
So that's your author name.
No, Ulff Lehmann is my real name. That's my real name.
Yeah, so I feel like you
very cool name.
I feel like you already know that you sound like a Viking warrior.
Well, I'm German, so that's pretty close. So that at least gives me a little street cred, I hope.
Well, you know, to be fair, so is Flula Borg, and if you've heard him speak, you know he's probably the least warrior man on the planet. Well, I'm sure he might be in real life, but the persona he plays.
Well, nah, I can be a warrior if need be.
You look like it with the beard and the hair, and you look like you're a pretty strong.
Grow long again, so it will be down to here eventually again.
Oh, do you go to Renaissance fairs?
Nah.
No, you should, and you should do like your beard and the beard beads and stuff.
Well, I got the bead, but it's too short still to get the bead really in there. So.
Too short right now.
Do they do Renaissance fairs in Germany?
Well, not the American type, but we do have something similar going on. It's called Medieval Spectaculum. So
probably people actually die at yours.
Nah,
it's probably like real sword battles and stuff.
Send in the neo-Nazis.
Oh, I did not. That was not a Nazi joke. I swear.
No.
I was thinking like warrior.
No, you said God. People dying, so I went immediately for send in the neo-Nazis. They can.
Oh
die.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes into the Fantasy Fiends podcast, and we are off the rails, ladies and gentlemen, with Nazi jokes,
but not penises. Not penises. Nazis. But now it's penises because I said it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a quick question. Are you in Germany right now?
Yeah, it's bloody late. It's 2:00 in the morning for me.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
wow. What part of Germany?
The Ruhr area. I don't know if you're familiar with the geography. It used to be, during the First World War and during the Second World War, it was basically the armory of Germany. Heavy industry and shit.
Northwest, east, or south?
Northwestish. I'm about 2.5 hours from Amsterdam. So
okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I have because I did Ancestry.com, and I have an ancestor that was born in France, but super close to Germany. Like it might as well have been Germany. Alsace, France, I think.
Alsace-Lorraine, yeah, that's more south.
That's west. Like close to Germany, though, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. It's Alsace-Lorraine is basically it's contentious. It's been contentious for centuries. So
it looked like that,
like most of Europe, technically. You know.
Do they speak German over there?
Some do, some don't.
Okay, yeah.
So no, seriously, this is the area that for 30 years it was French, then it was German again, and then French, German.
Oh, wow. Until it's crazy over there because whenever I studied over there, I felt like if I just crossed a city limits, I had to learn a new language. But I didn't go to Germany, and I really, really wish I did because I've seen pictures and it's just so beautiful. In fact, I just want to go back to Europe. I want to live in Europe.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah. 6 months was not long enough.
Stevie is that guy who goes to Europe and comes back all pretentious.
Yeah, I pretend like I'm from there.
Okay.
But I love
person who does that. So.
So today we actually have a really cool topic, and it is the triumph of. Oh, you know what, Ulff, we didn't even talk about your book. Why did you introduce your book? Because I see you have quite a few, and they have amazing, awesome sword covers.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see. The first one, Shattered Dreams, has been around. I self-published that 4 or 5 years ago, actually, the first time around, and then I got the book deal, so yay.
Awesome.
It is, well, stylistically, it's pretty close to what Martin did with very narrow third-person narrators. So the reader does not get all the info. He only gets the info that whatever character has, and he has more infos, obviously, but he still needs to piece shit together because the characters don't know what the fuck is happening. So, yeah, that's nice. I write realistic fantasy, so it's more.
Okay.
It's bloody, but it's not like grim. Well, some people say it's literary take on fantasy. Some people say it's very elaborate, grim dark, not so much like blood and guts grim dark, but more like emotional grim dark. I don't know. I just wanted to write realistic fantasy stories because oh well, most of the stuff I read was pretty much like yeah, okay, the heroes go out on the quest and it's the quest every time, and I'm like, oh fuck this shit. Nobody goes on a quest.
So you've taken a George R. R. Martin approach to it then.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Game of Thrones, when I read it, I was like, okay, this is how I need to do it. Otherwise it wouldn't work. So yeah.
So no one is safe in your books.
Yes.
There are, so can, like, you know, because usually the hero, the protagonist, someone who's got a good heart is usually going to live. Well, I don't want to really give anything away in season 1 of Game of Thrones, but anyway, like people you think would live actually die.
Well,
I think that was a huge shock for me.
Okay. I kill the most sympathetic character right in the middle of the book.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, well, maybe I would have done something like that. So the main book we're talking about today would be Shattered Dreams, right?
Yeah, that's the passage also from.
Okay, so I'll link that book in the description, guys. So if you're interested in that book, go check it out. And also, I have to say, Ulf, your author bio is like terrifying. It's it matches your voice. It matches your voice. You look like some Germanic vampire Viking. It
Well,
looks
vampire
good.
because it's bloody late.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Vampire
sorry.
Viking.
All of our people from across seas always have to come on late.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about the triumph of human ingenuity, and of course, I'm going to let Andy take it from here to explain it a little bit more.
Well, you know, it was Ulf's idea, and I loved it because it was like if you look at technology that's existed since the beginning of time, it has been humanity's struggle to survive, right? Like at its most primitive, fire. Fire is all about meat, you know, food, warmth, shelter, protection from the animals.
Definitely.
And as you go on and on and on, humanity's need to survive changes. No longer are animals the threat. Now each other are the threat, right?
Yep.
So you go from spears and, you know, spikes, pits to keep out saber-toothed tigers to spears and shields to keep out antagonistic warriors, and then swords and shields, and then bigger spears and longer shields and bigger swords and heavier swords, and then guns, and it just gets bigger and bigger.
The evolution of technology and
exactly
the evolution of war. Yeah.
And it's so interesting. One of the things that one of the series that really does it well is David Weber's Safehold series, because it starts off in sort of sailing era, age of sails era technology, where there's, you know, galleons and frigates and sail powered ships and swords, but then they you know, one of the characters introduces a slightly new technology to give the good guys an advantage, and so then the bad guys respond by one-upping them, and then it's sort of this, it really shows almost in real time how technology evolves, not only to the society that you live in, but to the threats that you face.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see how that goes. You were talking about like armor and weaponry, right?
Yeah. For me, basically, I love the. I hate the D&D approach. Oh, let's throw a scimitar in there against chainmail. And anyone who has any bloody idea about armor knows, oh yeah, that's a slashing weapon. That's real smart against chainmail. So I was like, okay, this is bloody stupid. Okay, I understand it from a gaming standpoint. So because otherwise you would have every fighter, every warrior on the battlefield will have a sword, will have chainmail, will have a shield, will have a helmet. That's how it works in a game. That doesn't make much sense because you don't have individuality then, because then, ooh, what does my character look like? Well, he looks like that guy, but mine is different. Yeah, well, maybe he is left-handed, but still the same thing. So
Yeah.
that's why they put it in the games. But in novels, when you actually, I mean, one of the key questions when I assume you to develop a story is why. That's the key question. Why is X? Because something happened before. So I read this. I started to read a novel, and I had this guy going with kukris against chainmail.
Oof.
And that was when I tossed the book. I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Just no.
Yeah. So I'm actually writing military right now, and it's basically Roman legion style armies versus Viking armies. And so the technological level, it's quality steel with more Roman tactics versus the Viking tactics and Viking level weaponry. So it's but then as the characters, you know, or as the armies fight each other, their tactics adapt. Not only does their weaponry change, but their tactics. Like the bad guys ambush the Roman legions. So the Roman legion, now they can't travel through this part of the forest anymore for fear of being ambushed. So then they go another way around, and then the bad guys adapt. They set up another ambush in a different place where they're not expecting. And so it's all about, like, warfare is all about adapting according to what the enemy, not only what the enemy has done in the past, but what they have always done and what you think they will do. And it's so interesting to go through that process, because you can end up outthinking yourself, and that's almost half as fun, to have the characters overthink a problem and the bad guys just respond a different way, and so all their planning goes to naught because they thought the wrong direction. So it's such an interesting thing to study, and absolutely mind-bending. My brain is mush.
That was a problem for me when I was writing what is now books 4 and 5, because I, as a shorthand, said, well, my elves are like the Romans. That was my shorthand, just to explain for myself why my humans were on Dark Age level technology. So what I did, that didn't help though, because my basic knowledge about Roman military technology and tactics was, there were legions. So that was
that's it. Yeah. Oh yeah, but then there's 3 eras of Roman military. So again, all of this stuff takes a ton of study. Like I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm going through it since I've been reading this. It's called How to Win on the Battlefield. Okay. Is that the right way up, or is that upside down? My camera's backward. There you go.
No problem.
And so it breaks down, like, the basic battle tactics and stuff. And, you know, things like concentration of fire, concentration of force, battle momentum, there's a term like the pivotal part. There are all kinds of complicated stuff, and this is stuff that I would never have understood. There, you know, to a certain degree, I do understand it because I've watched a ton of movies and read a ton of books, and so things like an ambush, you can plan an ambush and you can figure out how to make it work. But then, in order to be an actual tactician and be smart about it, you've got to understand such crucial things like momentum. You know, what is battle momentum? How is that just the horse is charging? No, it's about so much more. It's about morale and positioning and tactics and, you know, slope, and like it's so confusing, but it's so interesting to study how human armies have evolved and how their technology was evolved. Like one of the probably the most classic example would be the Greek hoplites versus the Roman legion.
That's why. That's where I started. I wanted to start. Said, okay, if I'm going to understand a Roman legion, I have to start where it all began, which is the hoplites.
Yeah, the
So-
hoplites, the Spartans.
The Spartans, Alexander, everything from there, and then going through the entire evolution.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm obsessive compulsive. Shoot me.
That is a lot. So did you study this in school, or is it just a hobby that you became obsessed with to make your books more realistic?
Well, yes.
Yes to all of those questions.
Well, okay. Here in Germany, we study history from 5th grade on. So we started in antiquity, and we worked our way up to modern times, basically. And so I had limited knowledge, I dare say. And well, for everything else, that's what books are for. So I'll just read up what I need.
Yeah.
And in other cases, okay, you can. I don't know, Andy, if you heard me mention before the face of battle somewhere when during discussions.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a book I heartily recommend.
The Face of Battle?
Yes.
Is that John Keegan? I don't know if I read that one. I've read at least 2 of his books. Actually, I took his blow-by-blow breakdown of the Battle of Agincourt and separated that into different parts of 2 battles in the first book of my military series, because he does such an amazing job of, okay, so this is what happened and this is how it happened, and then here's how the enemy responded, and then the enemy didn't do this quite right, so he literally does it blow by blow, which is something that is not very common. So it's a fascinating read. Pretty much anything by him, John Keegan, is a very, very good read for military history and tactics.
I think
what I think is most important there is not to show it from the general's point of view, because the general is always somewhere like the guy sitting behind the chessboard. He's never in the front lines, and the real vicious shit happens when the lines collide. So
yeah. Although I am writing this story that I'm working on is both. So there are battles where he's got a lead, because, the Roman legion style, they had there was the individual platoons, and then there was the centurion, there was the decurion centurion, and then there was the guy leading it. So he serves as both. There's times where he's right there in the front of battle, and then there's other times he's got to be in the back. And so it's really interesting to see the battle from both perspectives.
I did something similar. Well, not similar. I said, okay, what should I do? Okay, my elves are Romans. How do I work magic into the entire system? And that's where it becomes really freaky. My magic system revolves around potential and fact, basically. Potential is, this pebble. Let's remind this pebble what it was a couple thousand years ago, which it was a fucking boulder. You toss the pebble, work your magic, remind the stone what it was before, and wham.
Wow.
Then it shrinks back again because, well, it's just potential. And the elves have perfected that.
Damn, you could get really creative with that. Like, here is an acorn. Here you go. Yeah. You're gonna be an oak tree. Boom.
Precisely. What do you think it looks like when the archers shoot? They shoot blunt arrows, and then the trees come crashing down.
that is cool. Yeah. So. That sounds awesome. My military has no magic, so it's all that that shields banging against shields and swords and archers and stuff like that. But
there's no magic at all in Silent Champions.
There is healing magic. One guy has stones that can heal people, like magic healing stones. The rest of it is just human versus human.
Well, I don't have healing magic. Usually, the healers just figure out, okay, this person will live. Let's worry about them. This person will die. Let's kill him immediately.
Oh,
So
wow.
very, very well, yeah, brutal.
Have you read that book On Killing?
No.
It's it's an American book, and it was something that I had to read when I was studying Jeet Kune Do, and it was the psychological effects of actually killing another human being. And it's super fascinating because it goes through the mind of before the kill, before your first kill, during the kill, right after the kill, and then having to go back into society knowing that you have taken a life. And it's this weird thing that some people I thought that all people would realize, wow, morality is real. We could all die at any moment, but some don't experience it. And then it goes on to talk about how there are psychopaths that live among us. And On Killing is a really interesting book. And it showed me that it talks about how far it would take most humans to go before they had to kill another human being. And it usually revolved, from what I remember, it revolved around family.
Well,
And it revolved around family. So if your family member was in danger, you would have less of trouble killing that other person.
yep,
And
definitely.
then the next was yourself, which was crazy to me that your family would be the first one that you would kill. I know it's a little bit off topic, but the books you guys were talking about reminded me of this book On Killing, and it's really long, and I felt like the author was slightly depressed after he finished writing it. So
Oh,
Probably.
they have a lot of people who learn to conceal carry here in Texas. They have a lot of those guys read that book to show, like, killing's not a game. This is what could really happen. And PTSD is a real thing.
I agree, but okay. See, we as a society are pretty much removed from killing in general.
Yes.
If we go 500 years, 300 years back, there was still farmers were slaughtering. They're still slaughtering their own pigs and cows and whatnot. But people were more surrounded. The further you go back into the past, people were more surrounded by the act of killing, and it was more normal for them to be surrounded by death.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying on killing, yes, it works, but it works for our quote unquote civilized minds. For someone who lives on a farm, who has skinned his first rabbit or her first rabbit at 10, and worked the meat grinder and put the meat into the guts to get the sausage to then smoke sausages. These people are surrounded by death. That's a completely different angle there, and that's so for a citizen or a villager or whoever 1,000 years ago, seeing death on a not daily basis but on a regular basis, it was nothing uncommon. And if you look at what the Romans had, where they today we have soccer or football games where they beat each other senseless in the arena. Back then, they killed each other, and that was entertainment. Now we got the Kardashians, and I want to kill someone too.
So I have a quick question for you then. Do you think back then that the capacities for being able to kill another human being, we all agree that it's probably a lot lower or higher? Do you think that the what I'm trying to say is here, what am I trying to ask? That, yeah, the capacity to kill was lower back then, right? Do you think that the range was a lot smaller as well? Like there was like in your books, would you have somebody that would never kill another person?
No.
Okay, so exactly. So the range was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So there were people like, I probably wouldn't kill somebody, and then the other one was like, yeah, I would easily.
I mean, okay, let's put it this way. Right now, if your dog is ill, like deathly ill, what do?
I try and save it with a lot of money and medicine.
And if you can't save it, what then?
You put it down.
I'd have to put it down. Yeah.
That is the humane bit.
Yes.
Now, if your father or brother or sister is mortally ill, what do?
We fight it, right?
Right. And you fight until the very last breath, even though the doctors tell you have told you 10 weeks before, you only prolong suffering.
Yes. And I believe everyone would fight to the last minute, or at least most people.
Yeah, but why is it more humane to kill your pet? What's the emotional difference isn't really that big.
Well, I think on an intellectual level, the person who decides to fight to the end versus a pet may not have, like, let's say your father says, I want to fight to the end, or let me go, versus a pet who can't communicate to you clearly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the only distinction between
the two.
That's
the only distinction. But if
see,
you have someone who's demented who doesn't know shit anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. And they're saying, let me go. It's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to keep making you suffer so I can have you longer. And I think it might go into greed, selfishness, wanting this person to stay in your life longer, which.
But a pet we would put down, and we love the pet just the same. So
yeah.
So my logic there is basically, for my story now, if the quote unquote healers know this person will die, we end their suffering. I mean, what do you do if someone is escaping from a chest wound and you know they're dead in 5 minutes?
Oh yeah, no, that's why people did the battlefield mercy killings. Like they wouldn't go among the wounded to kill them, to stop them from being enemies. It's because the wounds were so grievous that it was a mercy. Literally put them out of their misery. That's why they would have people walking on the battlefield with spears and swords. Yeah.
Would they do it at their enemies though too, or just the
friends
allies?
and enemies? Yeah.
No, everybody, because it is more humane.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know. Were you in the military? Either of you?
Oh no, I'm the furthest from military. The only thing I've had is I have my permit to carry, and I read the On Killing book, and I have martial arts. I have no military experience at all.
Well, I was in the army for only 12 months, but still.
I know that's a lot though.
Well, yeah, but only 3 months basic training. Everything else was like, meh. I never carried a gun afterwards. But anyway, one of the basic tactics we had was what you do on the battlefield. You wound, you do not kill.
What? Really?
Yeah. And the logic behind it is the most disgusting thing. And you can imagine. Killing someone doesn't... Okay, you killed a person. That person is dead. Lies there. Who cares? You wound the person. That person screams in pain.
And demoralizing. Damn, that is cruel.
You bind 2 to 3 people just to care for this person, to take it out of the battlefield.
Wow.
So instead of just killing one, because that one is dead, who cares?
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Actually, I was in a paintball game fight one time, and this guy got popped in the neck, and he started screaming, so I instantly surrendered. So it kind of reminds me exactly what you just said.
Psychological thing. Wow, I had no idea.
It was me and 3 other friends versus 1 professional, and the professional took out like 2 guys instantly, and they were screaming in pain. I was like, I give up. I'm done. Don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. I'd rather not be shot.
But that's really it's another thing to think about, is how society has evolved according to its technology. Like we're talking about like this book On Killing. It might never have been written 100 years ago when war was much more commonplace. 500 years ago, no one would have given a second thought to it. It's like, okay, so my father's been a soldier his whole life. Now I'm raising my family on my farm. My lord, my nobleman, my duke, whatever calls me to battle, I pick up my father's sword, I go to battle. There's never a question about it.
So you're saying now we have a privilege.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't necessarily call it a privilege. It's just different. In a society where war and death is not as prevalent, it's not a focus. In a society where war and death is prevalent, it is the focus. So we have our human society, our modern society has evolved in many countries, especially first world countries, to steer away from these things where violence and killing and things like that aren't as commonplace. Therefore, they are almost considered taboo in many things. Whereas you go to a lot of more primitive or third world countries where violence is literally every day on the streets, violence is a much more common part of the everyday person's life. Therefore, it is far less, they're far less sensitive to it.
Yeah.
And so it's all about taking where we as a society are at. And I'm definitely in agreement that humans, modern humans have adapted away from it. But, we've proven time and again that we are always capable of steering right back into that behavior. And so understanding that, adapting according to our society, you can't pick up a gun and say, I'm defending my home. Well, you can, you're in Texas, but
yeah, I could.
But how often are you going to actually have to defend your home versus
probably 0.
300 years ago in Texas, when it was still, part of Mexico, a Texan was literally defending his home from invading banditos or
from invading Americans.
Yeah, exactly. Or, the society has evolved. I'm sure, Ulff learning the German history, it's pretty much nonstop war since the early Germanic tribe days.
Yep. Pretty much. We ended this shit in 1945 and that's it. But the thing that irks me in fantasy and which I love in Game of Thrones is most fantasy takes the noble hero kind of role thingy, and that is a concept that is born from our perception mostly, and from Christian perception.
Oh, okay, yeah. I could see that. Interesting.
So look at mythological heroes pre-Christianity. Hercules, Heracles. He was a bastard. He killed people. There was nothing noble about him. He just did what he had to do.
Yeah.
And then 1,500 years later, we got Le Mortature. So, and all of a sudden, we have all these cultural influences, which are again putting the noble woman, not the maid in the barn, but the noble woman on the pedestal, and all this stuff that has more to do with Christianity than anything else. So,
have you read the book A World Lit by Fire?
No.
It was Andy, have you?
Nope.
Oh, you guys would love it. It was shown to me by a historian from a really nice college here in Texas, and I got to talk. I was talking to him about God first, and then he figured out that I was a fantasy writer, and he's like medieval times, like, yeah, and he's like, read this book, A World Lit by Fire, and it was depressing. It's dirty to read about these people in the Dark Ages. And one thing that really stuck out to me was when a farmer had a daughter and his farm was further away, like he couldn't actually use his daughter for leverage or anything, or if she was ugly, which is crazy. It was like it was sad. But the thing was, the father wasn't even really sad. He was more angry. I mean, this wasn't for all the times, but it was just an interesting thing that I read, that they were actually angry that they had a daughter and now they had something else to protect or to feed, and nothing to help, with the farms. And that's, before that, my thoughts of the Dark Ages were very romanticized.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that book,
many of us have that.
I still feel like I have
idea.
It. Even after reading the book, I still feel like it's a Knight's Tale every day, back in the Dark Ages.
Okay, considering that the part of the house I sit in right now is 300 years old, it gives you a slight perspective of where I live. So
yeah, that's awesome. You know what? If you want to, you should send us pictures. If you have cool pictures of your house, we'll post them on the Fantasy Fiends podcast Facebook page.
Oh, you can. Cool. Okay, if you Google my hometown, you will find pictures.
What is it?
Hattingen, Hattingen.
Stevie's Googling it. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, I like that how you were saying that the heroes of the story, or the main characters, the protagonists, evolved according to the morality of the society that they were targeted to. And that's perfect, because that's the perfect example of something advancing according to its society. Right now, the kind of heroes that you and I read probably would never, ever have been popular 100 years ago. You know, like look at Elric of Melniboné or any of the characters from Game of Thrones. Had you put that to someone in the Charles Dickens era, they would have been like, what the hell is this? You know? And the same with the Charles Dickens era. Someone who read that and, you know, or had they presented that at the time of Canterbury Tales or Shakespeare, they would have just been like, oh my God, this is just terrible.
No, Shakespeare would have gone like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, look at every every character I can't say, but I mean, Hamlet, is he a hero? No, he's a fucked up lunatic.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was. He's a villain, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And it goes on. These are just that's the strength of Shakespeare. He describes people and just people.
What about Oedipus?
He's a person. He's human, basically. I mean, okay.
That story freaked me out. I thought that was so messed up.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. Then we have the current occupant in the White House who says about his daughter.
Reverse Oedipal complex.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's any kind of fucked up shit is possible.
Yep.
Go to 4chan.com.
No,
don't go to 4chan.com. No one go to that.
But it's true. But then at the same time, you know, there is, I think this, for example, the concept of noble heroes is that we are embodying the thing that we wish we could be or the thing that we idealize or aspire to. And so society has told us that these things are noble, so we aspire to them, and so we idealize them, and so we write them.
Yeah.
And there comes a time when there's just so much, like you said, fucked up shit going on in the world that we don't necessarily want to read about the original Hercules type of character who's just a total bastard. We don't want to read about someone like the Hound or the Mountain or, you know, these characters who are just so there's so many of these people in our lives or around us or on our televisions that we kind of want that escape. And so that's where fantasy is such a great escape, because you can read about these absolutely unrealistic exaggerations of the good traits that we all wish there was a little bit more of in our lives. And so it's another great example of how literature evolves according to society. It's sort of like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was this massive shift towards grimdark. Now the shift is going back the other way. Not necessarily, you know, noble, bright, and everything is just flowers and peaches and cream, but to more to stories that have a little bit more hope, because our world appears so hopeless. We want that. And so society has adapted and evolved according to our circumstances. And this is basically technology at its most basic, communications technology. We, the authors, are saying, here's a little slice of hope for you. Instead of food that you need to survive because you're going to starve on your farm, we don't need that anymore. Now we need mental food. Here's a little bit of hope that you can get through the shitty day that you're having in the shitty society that's around you.
But that doesn't work for people who suffer from depression. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But then,
Andy, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, like, is it getting too late, or
we can go a couple more?
Okay,
let's keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great example.
Everything is fine.
Yeah, no. So mental disorders, emotional disorders. Now they are being included in stories, and it's being not normalized as in it's okay, but normalized as in it's okay to have depression, right? It's okay to be depressed because it's something that other people deal with. Here's some methods for coping with it. You know, you're showing people, sort of like how you read about the way back when Frodo. Little guy, super weak, not a warrior, wins the day, right? Depression is Frodo, right? Depression is someone who's got everything stacked against them in this specific way. Yep. And yet, because this hero or this character in the story gets through his depression, definitely isn't healed from depression, but finds a way through it, finds a way to cope with it, to live with it, to manage it, and wins the day. It's telling people, all right, this is something that you can live with, cope with, manage as well. And it's a means of surviving in this modern world.
Yep, agreed. I mean, for me, it's okay. I am clinically depressed, so I take my meds every day, and I'm at least normal. But my main character is, it's my alter ego. His healing process is my healing process. And I no, well, I don't want to say I revel in it, but you don't stop being depressed after chapter 10.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like a form of therapy to write this character? I'm just curious.
Nah,
No?
the therapy came before on
Really?
Fury.
But you know, I love how something like this, how you can literally just say that on air, on YouTube, forever going to be on the internet. You have clinical depression. Go back to the era of Vietnam War, and that word would never pass a real man's lips,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But now, because society has adapted, this is the new threat, right? People committing suicide every day. There is this threat to our society. And so we as a society are finding a way to survive it, to cope with it. Humanity is triumphing because we are talking about it.
Well,
you know, it's
thinking humanity. Let's not generalize it, because we have enough dumb fucks out there who don't really get it. So
right, but society, we're talking about humans as a species versus, you know, butterflies are triumphing because humans are combating depression.
It's so weird you bring up the fact that the Vietnam, during the Vietnam War, that a man wouldn't say that he was depressed. I can't say who on air, but I am familiar with an elderly couple, and the woman came to my mom saying, I don't know why, but I'm sad all the time and I don't feel well mentally. My brain hurts. It feels like my brain hurts and I don't want to live anymore. Take this person to the hospital. Turns out they're depressed. Well, and very, very depressed. And they still have not found a medication combination to stop it. And so this person's in therapy. Well, the husband of this woman doesn't believe that it even exists. He says you should just be able to snap out of it. That was his example. Snap out of, and he was I can't say anything most, but it was just it blew my mind that someone could think that they could just snap out of clinical depression. It doesn't work that way. It's a chemical imbalance.
It's infuriating.
Yeah, and you know, it's that elderly generation who haven't adapted like we have, especially with racism, which is just sickening, but they just haven't adapted or changed like we have. Some have, but some haven't. And it's like seeing a human time capsule.
Yeah. And if you don't adapt, you don't survive, or in this case, human societies thrive. You know, people who are racist. You look at all the people, like take Roseanne Barr, right? Perfect example. Her show, whatever it was called, is coming back. It was hitting all the right notes. People were loving it. It got renewed. And then she spouted racist shit on Twitter, and she is gone. She's done for. You know, like that in our modern society, that is the definition of career suicide or, you know, public execution.
Yep.
She shot herself in the foot by saying something racist. Or look at James Gunn, you know, probably one of the most sought after directors in Hollywood. He got canned from the project that literally he made great because of something he said years ago. And so people, had he not said, all right, I apologize, or had he not adapted to the circumstance, he would have been done for. People who don't adapt die. In this case, it ends up being more societal suicide or societal death than any real death. Yep. But anyone who gets too stuck in the past, just like an army, if the Roman army hadn't adapted according to the way that they faced the Germanic tribes versus the Gallic tribes,
they did not look up Arminius.
I love Arminius. but you see, the way that they faced the Germanic tribes was vastly different than the way that they defeated Alexander the Great versus the way that they fought Hannibal. So the Roman legion did adapt, and then as soon as they stopped adapting, they died. You know, like that was actually one of the examples that I was thinking of when I talked about my army marching into a trap.
Yeah, it was on the tip of my tongue, because I was like, does he know about Arminius? Because that's just like, that's textbook. That's classic. So.
Absolutely. And it's a perfect example of how a militarily and technological superior army can be defeated by inflexibility, by rigidity, by not thinking ahead, all of that. The Roman legion did not adapt in that battle scenario, or they were incapable of adapting because they couldn't march off of the beaten path because their armor was too heavy. It would have dragged them down. They would have gotten lost. They would have broken unit cohesion. They died.
But that's the same about Vietnam, isn't it? I mean,
definitely. And so it's repeated over and over and over again in history, where the army or the country or the empire or the society or the financial system or the religion, whatever adapts, survives. Whatever doesn't, dies out.
Yep.
And on that note, we are out of time. Ulff, why don't you tell our readers, listeners, viewers where they can find you?
Okay, you can find me on Facebook under ralken.com, facebook.com/ralken. That's my quote-unquote official page for now. All my announcements go through there. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads. So there's a couple of outlets there that you can reach me. And if you want, just shoot me a question. I'm open for it. Anything goes.
And check out Shattered Dreams on Amazon. It's a kick-ass book. I haven't read it personally, guilty, but I have heard amazing things about it from people whose opinion I respect. So go check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We ran 10 minutes over, but it was just such a fascinating topic. And if you like Game of Thrones, you gotta read Ulff's book, and please promise me if you do read it, please read it in his voice in your head. It will make the book so much better. Ulff, it has been fantastic. And really quick, you said your Facebook was Ralph Kern?
Ralken. RALCHANH.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. And yeah, and so his book will be in the description below if you're interested. Andy, anything else? Andy?
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, I said anything else?
Nope, that's it. Sorry, my internet froze on me.
Oh, no problem. Next week, who do we have?
Hopefully the wonderful ML Spencer.
Wow, about damn time. Isn't that what your email was?
I know.
About damn time? Yeah, it's going to be so cool to talk to her. All right. Well, Ulff, thank you so much for being on the air. Ulff.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a very fascinating topic.
I did enjoy this. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, guys, sorry we were late on the Fantasy Fiends podcast. We love you all so much. We hope you had a pleasant time with us tonight, and we will see you guys next Thursday. Much love. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Have a good one.